Yo, 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 what's up? What's really good? The usual introduction, but today is Sports Plus Life talking ish, as when there's not a bunch of ish to be talked in that regard, but I'm sure everybody saw, like I saw last night, the frightening event during this Monday night football game between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals, where safety Damar Hamlin apparently went into cardiac arrest after making what was a pretty routine tackle on T. Higgins. The game ended up being postponed, and it was about 3/4 through the first quarter with the Bengals up 7-3. And the human factor of this, to me, the postponement of the game was the right thing to do. I personally had never seen anything like that on a football field. I do remember back when I was a very young kid watching Hank Gathers collapse, watching Reggie Lewis collapse, and unfortunately both of them ended up passing away due to their condition. Now, nobody knows if Damar Hamlin had a pre-existing heart condition like those other two athletes did, or if this was just kind of a freak spur of the moment thing that just happened to be seen by 10 million people last night because it was the only game on in town. I do have Tony with me. What up, bro?
Yo, what's happening?
As a person who's been watching sports longer than I have you ever seen anything quite like that on a football field?
I quite literally have never seen anything like that. The only thing I'll say about it is it puts things in perspective, man, in terms of how valuable life is and how, things can turn instantaneously. That young man is an athlete and in pretty damn good condition, and just out of the clear blue, out of the clear blue. It's interesting because I was talking to a clanmate of mine, and he was talking about the reporting from ESPN where he couldn't remember the name of it. Was it Aaron? Was it Aaron that was doing it? Maybe.
Who?
Aaron Andrews.
No.
Okay, it wasn't Aaron.
No, it was the black chick, the black lady. The sideline reporter.
Yeah, and she just kept going on and not understanding the moment.
Well, she was getting emotional while she was talking about it.
Not the sideline. It was the one in New York.
Oh, okay. Who was in New York? I don't remember. I know it was Booger McFarland, Adam Schefter, and yeah, I don't remember the. I think Lisa Salters or something like that. I don't remember. I'm not sure of the woman's name.
That's who it was.
But you're saying she wasn't understanding the magnitude of the moment?
Yeah. Her questioning, she got to do better. You got to recognize what's going on, and do better. Because the questions she was asking at that moment, them dudes are not thinking about that game. They're not.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think the majority. Clearly, the majority of the players and coaches were not thinking about the game. There was a time period when you thought the game was going to resume, where you did see Stephon Diggs trying to, rally the troops, fire up the troops to go back and play the game. You saw some of the Cincinnati Bengals go back and start to warm up. Interestingly enough, they kept saying on the broadcast that they had 5 minutes to before they ultimately postponed the game. They said they had 5 minutes to warm up to get ready to resume play. And then one of the NFL officials, I think it was Troy Vincent, came out and said the league never said anything about 5 minutes. They had 5 minutes to warm up and play. I was just more like, you ain't got to lie about it. You ain't got to lie, Craig. Because, the commentators, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, the officials were in constant contact with the NFL office in Park Avenue in New York. So if the referees are telling the players you got 5 minutes, they got it from somewhere. I don't think they made that up.
No.
We know that the NFL is the ultimate reaction league, because I was saying this last night. Don't get it twisted. If this game had been maybe 20 years ago, or even if it was on a Sunday during Red Zone, if this was not the only game in town, they would have continued playing.
Yeah.
If it was not for this being the only game in town, 10 million people, generally the biggest regular season game of the football season is usually the 4 o'clock Thanksgiving game that features the Dallas Cowboys. This was the biggest game of the year in the regular season. This had surpassed that. This had surpassed the Thanksgiving game because of everything that was at stake. The two featured quarterbacks. This was a heavyweight fight. This was the most anticipated game of the season because of how the season had played out. 10 million people was watching it. The whole world saw this kid go into cardiac arrest. But make no mistake about it. If it wasn't for the reaction on social media, the reaction of these players, the league would have probably mandated that the game continue to be played. We know the NFL is image conscious, but you know how much money they lost last night?
Yeah.
You think they're not angry about this? And I think they did the right. I think when it first happened, I said, the humanity, the human being in me doesn't think the game should be played. I think it should be stopped. But I wasn't sure if the NFL was going to do that. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, at the end of the day, it is a business, but the commodity is on the field. So, for real, I do think on some level they should take the players' feelings in consideration in terms of that. I think they literally should just ask both coaches and go from there.
Well, remember, they asked both coaches initially, when the ambulance first came. They asked, and the fact that the players built a human wall to where cameras and reporters couldn't get in. At first, when it first happened, I saw him, the hit, it was a routine tackle. Higgins lowered his shoulder, and the kid Hamlin made the tackle. When I first saw the replay of him getting up and him falling back down, I'm thinking, because I'm a boxing guy, I'm thinking, oh, he should have took that 8 count. I'm like, he got up too quick with adrenaline pumping, and his equilibrium wasn't right yet from the hit, and he fell back down. When they said they had to do CPR, I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
I said that means bro maybe had started seizing up.
Yeah, he was dead on the field.
Yeah, and they said they had to start his heart beating again. So, like you said, in effect, he was dead on the field. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. And remember, after all of that happened, they asked the coaches, do you want to play? Both coaches said yes. And then they went back. That's when the whole 5 minute, you got 5 minutes to warm back up. But the players, the majority of the players were not moving. They had completely checked out because I think a lot of those guys had saw something that they had never seen before on the field. And they're probably thinking, wow, that could have been me. So I think the game should have been stopped. Now the questions are they going to make it up? Because there was a lot riding on that game. That game didn't just affect Cincinnati and Buffalo. It affected the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. So if they deem this game a tie, then Cincinnati wins the division anyway, because it won't go. That tie won't affect them in the loss column as far as the Baltimore Ravens are concerned, who they play next week. If they do make it up, when do you have time to do it?
Yeah, that's.
If you make it up, you have to. You literally. Let's just say let's put our business hat on for a second. If you continue this game from where it left off, if you pick it up from 7-3, Bengals with 5 minutes and some change in the first quarter, the latest you could wait is tomorrow. Because you think about it, they flex games on the last week of the regular season all the time. If they make this game up tomorrow, which would be Wednesday, you probably move Baltimore and Cincinnati's game, as well as Buffalo and New England's game, to probably the Monday, if not Tuesday, and then you have to wait for the playoffs. Then you got the playoffs.
Playoffs?
Yeah, right. Then you got the playoffs, and which matters because Buffalo and Cincinnati are fighting for a number 1 seed. Kansas City's fighting for a number 1 seed. I'm hearing people say, you know what, they should just call it a tie. Who cares about the seeding? That's easier. That's easy to be said, and in the in the spirit of humanity, and I don't disagree with that. But that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for these teams. Now, maybe not the Buffalo Bills. I'm pretty sure the Buffalo Bills right now could give a fuck because they were distraught, and rightly so. But if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you're the Cincinnati Bengals, the competitive factor is going to kick back in and be like, well, damn, if that game hadn't got, if anybody who gets a break from it, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. If anybody unfortunately to say, if anybody benefits from the standings, not the game, if anybody benefits from the standings, it's the Kansas City Chiefs because they're right now sitting a half game up on Buffalo for the top spot in the AFC, but the Bills have the tiebreaker because of the head-to-head. The Bengals have the tiebreaker on the Chiefs because of the head-to-head. So it's like now, if you're the NFL, how do you manage this? And this being the last week of the season when it impacts 4 teams that have already clinched that are in the playoffs, but they're fighting for seeding. Bills in, Chiefs in, Ravens in, Bengals in. But now you're talking about seeding and division championships.
They may end up having to do a Thanksgiving Day kind of thing. And yeah, it's going to throw the overall schedule off. But in fairness, that's what they actually should do. They're going to end up doing a Thanksgiving Day. So those teams are going to have to just play on a short week type thing for them to make it up. But it won't be so far away that, yeah. I think that's the only way they can do it. Like, that's the only way they'll have to treat it like it's the Thanksgiving Day teams.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, again, I understand people saying, let's not worry about it. Let's just call it a tie, blah, blah, blah. But if home field advantage matters, then you have to settle this some way on the field. If home field advantage matters, I'm not discarding the human element. I'm thinking, because we've already established that to hell, we want this kid to make it. He's in critical condition. We want DeMar Hamlin to make it. We've established that, and that point is going to continue to get driven home. I'm just talking about now because I don't want anybody who listens to this to be like, oh my gosh, you're being insensitive. No, I'm not. I thought the game should have been stopped as well. I said it, did a short video on it last night. I thought that the human being in me thought the game should have been stopped, and that was scary. Now I'm putting my business cap on now because, again, like Tony said, this is a business. I'm putting my business cap on and thinking this was the biggest game of the regular season because, and by far the biggest game in the AFC, because it affected so many teams. It affected the division championship. It affected home field advantage. All of the above. It affected four teams who are going to the playoffs. If home field advantage means anything, then the Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals are gonna want to. I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of players on both teams that want to settle this on the field because of what that could mean going forward as far as a playoff run.
Right. Yeah. It's only fair. Like, you can't get around it. I mean, you did the right thing and stopping the game, but unfortunately, you do kind of have to take a life. Business goes on.
Well, it's going to go on regardless whether we like the way it goes on or not. I mean, again, I'm going to. Well,
that's what I'm saying, though. In your choice and however you choose to proceed, that is the umbrella that you're under. Life, business has to go on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep it 100. Again, if this was not the only game in town, I would be one to say that the game would have probably continued last night, even in bad taste. Which I think even if this had happened on a Sunday. With a slew of games going on at the same time, I think the right thing to do would have been to stop that game. They did the right thing. I think it was a reactionary reason why they stopped it. I think the NFL is lying when they're saying, oh, we didn't say they had 5 minutes to get ready. I think that's bullshit. I absolutely think. Because where did the referees get that from? They don't make the rule. I mean, they enforce the rules, but if there's anything they're unsure about, they're calling New York, even on a regular play.
Well, you know what though, and I haven't seen anything today. There might be something, a tidbit that one of the players or something drops that gives more of a clue actually what did happen behind the scenes. Because for all we know, that team could have rallied around and said, "We're not playing."
Well, that's what happened.
So,
That's what they're saying happened. They're saying that the players and the coaches said no. That the NFL said you got 5 minutes, and the players like, no, we're not playing. The coaches were saying we're not playing. And you know what are you going to do then? When when the players say they're not going to do it, what are you going to do?
And take for PR purposes, you have to go with the players and say, yeah, we support the players' decision.
You have
Even
to.
if you don't.
I honestly don't think the people on Park Avenue, I don't think that they really did support that. I think that they want that kid to be okay, but as far as the business aspect of it, they lost a lot of money. They wanted that game to proceed. I guarantee you there's an executive in that office somewhere who probably was of the shit happens variety.
Right.
And if that's the case, and I don't want to be right on that, but I mean that would be messed up. But none of that stuff surprises me because nothing stops the NFL.
Yeah, let's see. The thing is, usually in those moments, we'll go ahead and push that ball forward. Where they'll continue is you got the guy on the card and he gives the thumbs up, and that's the moment, and they just keep right on going. This case, there wasn't that. Like, so, like it was quiet.
What if this was the Super Bowl? Say what?
If it was the Super Bowl, I mean,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know there. Like, I really don't know. I think in all fairness, if it's Super Bowl, they continue the game because it's not so much that they would have a lot of money in that, but then you're thinking about the fan dynamic, or it's the people that are actually live there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the game will go on. I do. I just think they would take a break in between. It would be a long break, but then it would continue.
Yeah, it would be a break, something like in the Super Bowl in New Orleans when the lights went out.
Yeah.
And you had almost an hour-long break.
Yeah. And ultimately, in all fairness, that probably would be the right thing to do anyway. It would be the right thing to do. Because you can't, there's certain moments in time you can't recreate, and that's one of those, you really can't recreate that.
No. And I mean, this is, it's crazy because you're talking about, and if you watch that game, live, when it was going on, that was a championship atmosphere. And the game up to that point, which had really just gotten started, did not disappoint. Cincinnati wins the toss, does what everybody used to do, and takes the ball. Nobody does that anymore. And they rammed it right down Buffalo's throat and said, we here. And Buffalo comes right back down. They get a field goal. And you're thinking, okay, here we go. And then the next possession, that happened. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this was from business-wise, this was a fat old L that the NFL took. But from, again, that being the only game in town and the whole world watching that, the whole world feeling that uncomfortable when you're watching these players, these gargantuan athletes that are in their body armor and they're crying and weeping like little babies. And that made everybody around the world uncomfortable, frightened, and the NFL predictably reacted. They
from the monetary aspect, the NFL likely got the majority of their money. Because the advertisers, these are people that paid up front anyway, and so it's like, hey, we'll make it up to you, Bruce. We give you a spot at this in this game or whatever. So that's. I don't know how much the money thing actually, real time, how much money they lose on something like that.
What do you think?
By ratings, really, and I don't know how much money you lose. I don't know. I don't know how much money exchange hands win.
Well, I don't. I think I don't know how much of a ratings dip. I know, like I said, over 10 million people were watching the game. I don't know how many people stuck around for the entirety of the coverage, which I didn't realize, like, everything was happening so fast. I looked up and then it's 11 o'clock. I was like, well, damn. I was like, because the injury happened at 8:55. And the next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock. And, by that time, of course, the game had been postponed. I don't know how many people stuck around because some people, they don't want to watch stuff like that in real life.
Right.
You would.
Remember, that's what he told me. He turned it off.
Yeah. Yeah. You turn it off. You want to get to something that's a little more uplifting because, and the fact is that nobody knew anything about the kid's condition till probably the middle of the night. When I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard it was a broadcast saying more on the shocking details about Bill's safety, Damar Hamlin. So I immediately got my phone. I said, oh my God, did he die? I said, I pray he did not die. And then it was the whole cardiac arrest thing. Then I was like, wow, because, not a headshot.
Right.
And, usually that's the first thing when you think about somebody being put on a stretcher, or somebody being unconscious, you're thinking a headshot or a neck injury or spinal cord, something like that. Huh?
Something neurological.
Right. Not cardiac arrest because the dude got hit in the right area of the chest. And that's the thing. Do you think that he had a pre-existing condition, maybe unknowing, or do you think that this was one of those 1 in a million phenomenon freak?
One of those 1 in a million thing because you're a boxing aficionado. Heart punch, bruh.
Oh yeah.
You hit so hard it make your heart just
Yeah.
So,
and I've seen fighters collapse in the ring, but that's I mean, the dynamic of a boxing match and a football game is totally different. They're both violent, but you're purposely trying to inflict violence in a boxing ring. So you think it's the 1 in a million phenomenon where this was a freak accident? Everybody just happened to see it.
Yeah, I do. Because I think at this point they would have noticed something else unusual. Because the first thing they probably did was a cardiogram once they got him in stable condition. And by that, again, they would have announced that it was something else that wasn't caught, by team doctors or anything like that. I just think it was a freak thing. I think it was a freak thing.
Yeah, and I
so hard that they're fracturing ribs,
Yeah.
Ribs. So yeah.
I think you're right. I would tend to agree with you. Golly, I mean, how much do you think this discourages parents from wanting their kid to be in football?
Not at all. Not at all. Not in the least bit. Again, because I think most people are going to look at it, depending on what they ultimately announce, it was a freak thing. It was a freak thing. There's no equipment or anything. There'll be no equipment change because what can you really change? They already wear, if they want to, flak jackets and stuff like that at the beach. So, I mean, I don't think it'll change anything.
Yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough. So again, I'm gonna get back to what they're gonna do now about rescheduling the game because again, what if you're the Buffalo Bills and now all of a sudden there's an AFC championship game scenario where because of this incident, you now have to go to Kansas City instead of potentially hosting it for a game for a situation, an unfortunate situation that you had no control over and that you did not lose on the field. Or if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, what if your second round playoff game, you now have to go to Buffalo when you could have been hosting Buffalo or hosting Kansas City because of something that wasn't settled on the field? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it won't happen. They'll treat it like a Thanksgiving Day deal and reschedule in that way. Because literally, that's the only thing they can do. In fairness, I can't see any other solution. So, if they do that, then it's still kind of a disadvantage but no harm, no foul because other NFL. I mean, two particular NFL teams do it every single year.
But you think about it, when they play on Thanksgiving, they usually, at least at minimum, have a week off. Because I don't know if you've noticed this. What they've started doing, particularly with Dallas, is they play on Thanksgiving, and then they'll play again the following Thursday, where they've had 7 days off, or not again till the following Sunday, which gives them 10 days off. I mean, are you saying that they should play on Thursday and then maybe play on Monday of the following week? Because that's only 4 days off.
But there's no competitive advantage because both teams are actually doing it.
No, but what I'm saying is they're not. But it would be a competitive advantage for the Ravens and for the Patriots. The Ravens play the Bengals. The Patriots play the Bills. The last week of the season.
Well, you just move it that extra couple days, and then there's again no harm, no foul. You know, yeah, you won't have the exact same rest, but you'll at least have some. You know.
Yeah, I would honestly if I were gung ho about rescheduling the game, I would have them finish the game tomorrow, where it's a Wednesday, and then I would move both teams' regular season finale game to Tuesday. So that way it would be the equivalent of if you played Monday night and then turned around and played Sunday.
Right.
6 days. 6 days. Monday, maybe to Monday if you think Tuesday is pushing it because you got the playoffs coming up. But I would do I would have them play tomorrow and play their next game on Tuesday, maybe Monday if that's pushing it too much. So that ultimately it's going to be some combination of that. I think they'll figure out a way to make it as fair as they possibly can. But either way, you know, the game is going to get played. Like, it is going to get played. There's no way they'll just go with option, you know, D, where it's just, all right, we just going to do a tie. There's no way. I don't know, man, because what I'm reading is that might be exactly what they do. They went back to the COVID year saying, you know, nobody cared if one team played 10 games or if another team played 16. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't think that they would do that because of the stakes of the game. If this were two non-playoff teams, nobody would give a damn as far as whether they just said, well, it's a tie, neither team is going anywhere anyway. But that's tough. I don't know, because from all intents and purposes, that might be a reality. I don't think that would be the right thing to do.
But we'll find out later on today.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah.
Or one thing that I just read is that the possibility of this would really be pushing it, is creating a 19th week of the season where everything as far as the playoffs get pushed back. And you know, I don't know if that would include the Super Bowl because there's the bye week. They haven't had a Super Bowl without a bye week in 20 years. You know, they haven't done that since the Raiders and the Buccaneers played in, you know, the 2002 season, where they just played the conference championship game and then the very next week was the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl has too much hoopla around it now for it to just be 1 week. You know, you'd have to cram the practice and the pageantry in 1 week. I don't know if they can do that now like they could 20 years ago. But
that would be fair though, moving it back and then just, you know, that time, and everybody just has that extra time off. Everybody. So no one can claim anything. Yeah, literally everybody got the extra time off and then proceed as usual. So, yeah.
Yeah, as basically as if the Bengals and the Bills play, I guess, resume this Sunday, but I guess that would be the only game, and then everybody else's games would be the week after that. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. If you're listening,
like the only people that's going to complain about that is the ones that feel like they got a competitive advantage because some team got injuries and they get an extra week to heal up or something. Other than that, what can they say?
I mean, to be honest with you, if if they did do that, the way I would do it was if you're a team and you don't have, and it doesn't affect, if it doesn't affect your playoff positioning, then I would have them just play this week, like Houston versus Indianapolis. That game has no meaning to anything. Carolina versus New Orleans, that game has no meaning to anything. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, but if you're Detroit versus Green Bay,
any playoff scenario play.
Right. If any play, if you're playing in a game with any playoff scenario, like you guys, like Washington has no dog in the fight, but Dallas could potentially move up should the Giants, who have no dog, the Giants have no reason to play this last game because they're locked into the 6th seed. Tampa Bay has no reason to play, even though Braden came out and already said, no, I'm playing.
But the Giants have to play because they affect the playoff scenario.
Yeah, no, I'm saying they would have to play, but I'm saying, like, even if they did play, I don't think you're going to see the Giants starters for the entire game because they're locked into the 6th seed. They can't, their positioning won't increase or decrease with a win or a loss with their game against Philadelphia. You understand what I'm saying? There are only two teams in the NFC that are locked into their position. That's Tampa and that's the Giants. We know Tampa's going to be the 4th seed. We know the Giants are going to be the 6th seed. Even though, like, Tampa's game against Atlanta, that would be a game that I would play if they moved everything back. That would be a game I would play this weekend. Falcons ain't going nowhere, and Tampa's locked into the 4th spot. That has no bearings on playoff positioning.
Right. Yeah.
None. Now, the Giants, yes, the Giants would have to be in that slot of playoff impacted games because it's more important for Philadelphia than it is for the Giants. Just like it's more important for Dallas than it is for Washington now. With that game, how stupid is Ron Rivera? I'm sorry. I know I'm getting off topic. How dumb is he to bring Carson Wentz back?
Yeah. Yeah. There literally was no reason to do that.
None.
I understand the concept, and that's the guy you're paying, but you ride the hot hand.
Right. That Carson Wentz won one game for you all season. One. But yeah, so the scenarios as far as rescheduling, if anybody from the NFL happens to stumble upon this, I would just have I would have Buffalo and Cincinnati. I would let them know before 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, hey, we're going to get this done tomorrow, and we'll move your games against Baltimore and against New England to either Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's how I would play it. Because I just don't see it sitting right with the stakes that were attached to that game. That's not fair to Buffalo or Cincinnati if you say, well, we're just going to call it a tie. Yeah, Cincinnati would in effect win the division, but now them and Buffalo are screwed out of a chance to be the number 1 seed. And I don't mean screwed like nobody wanted this to happen. Nobody anticipated this happening. But it wouldn't be fair that now Kansas City is the unfortunate benefit of this tragedy that happened on the field because you don't think it's important enough to make that game up when it's 4 teams affected by that one game. I hope they don't do it that way. I honestly don't hope that they just don't say, well, it's a tie. I don't think that'd be right.
Yeah, I don't see them doing that. They'll figure out something. Again, we'll probably hear about it later on the day, but they'll figure out something that's fair. I can't see where a tie would be fair. And let's be technical. How was it a tie when the Bengals were winning the game? Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I understand these are different circumstances. And again, the most important thing is the health and the safety and the well-being of Damar Hamlin. I'm saying conversations that either people are afraid to say or have already said and that I haven't heard them because we know the legitimacy and the importance of the injury, and we want this kid to survive. And all intents and purposes, fuck the game. We want him. They did the right thing by calling the game off. Fuck the game. We're talking about life and death. But we know that the NFL is going to go on. And what we're talking about here is how do you now address that situation to where it's a fair competitive balance to the 4 teams that this one game impacted?
Again, We'll find out later on today. There's only but a couple paths forward. And I don't think just declaring it a tie is going to be one of those paths forward. You're going to have to shuffle the deck in terms of the schedule. And, yeah, it'll be some behind the scenes bitching and moaning because nobody's going to have the balls to complain outwardly, no matter what franchise they represent. So, and to be fair, they should just understand this is what happens when something like this that's never happened before really,
Right. Right.
Yeah, okay. You will live, Patrick Mahomes, whoever else it affects, you will be okay. It's just a game. You get paid, the game will be played. So at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
That's how I look at it. So nobody will complain outwardly.
Not outwardly, no.
And we'll never know who complained inwardly, so it doesn't really matter. The NFL has to think about their image, so whatever decision they make is going to be looked at and scrutinized, either way. But I just think shuffling the deck of the schedule, all you'll have is a few complaining fan base, things. So it'll be all right.
Well, them thinking about their image is why they decided to call the game off instead of to keep playing. And I will say this again till the cows come home. The only reason why that game got called off was because it was the only game in town, and the social media age impacted this one. I promise you. I promise you.
You might be right.
I promise you on that one, bro. Come on now. There were games in the past where players died on the field. They kept it moving.
Yeah.
They weren't the only game in town. Coverage wasn't what it was, and everybody didn't have a camera on their phone. Matter of fact, they didn't even have cell phones. The majority. If you had a cell phone back then, you were either a doctor or a dope dealer. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but while I got you on here, let me go ahead and get your picks for next week's games. Let's see. They start Saturday. KC at Vegas.
The Chefs.
And again, this game impacts KC's playoff standings. Saturday night game, Tennessee at Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. They're hot.
They're rolling. And Tennessee has fallen off the wagon. There are a couple of teams. I talked about this yesterday. There are a couple of teams that have just fallen off the wagon. Tennessee being one of them. Baltimore, Cincinnati, we don't know when that game is going to happen, but who do you have winning that game?
The Bungles.
Yeah, Cincinnati had won 7 straight games coming into the night. They're the second hottest team in the NFL, only to San Francisco, who's won 9 straight. Tampa Bay at Atlanta.
I'm going to say the Bucks.
Yeah, Tom Brady's only playing that game because he don't want to finish the season with a losing record. I really believe that's what that's all about.
Right.
I do. And golly, just when you thought we was about to get rid of that motherfucker. Damn. Boy, I was so mad at the Panthers, man. Man, I was so mad at the Panthers. I'm like, after touchdown pass to Mike Evans, number 2, double cover that motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, goodness gracious. They literally were scoring on them with the same play. It was the same play. A double move, straight go. That's it. And you didn't think once to send that cornerback safety help? Gee whiz. Make it make sense. I was rooting for you, Steve Wilkes. New England at Buffalo. It says 1:00. We don't know when that game is going to happen, but who do you got?
Say that one again.
New England at Buffalo.
Well, Buffalo.
Minnesota at Chicago.
The Vikings.
This will be one of those games that has playoff impact.
The Vikings got to be the worst 12 with the IFC in a long time.
Man, let me tell you, when the Vikings lose, they get destroyed.
Yeah.
When they win, they barely win, and when they lose, they get absolutely annihilated. That's why nobody scares them. Nobody is scared of them. They may end up playing the Giants in the first round of the playoffs, and I think the Giants will beat them.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think the Giants would win. Houston at Indianapolis.
Colts.
All right. The Jets at the Dolphins. Speaking of nose, both of those teams have straight up nosedived.
But I'm taking the Jets. I'm taking the Jets. I have nothing for the Dolphins. I'm taking the Jets.
Yeah, I don't think Tua's going to play this game either. You said what?
I say I'm taking the Jets on principle alone.
Okay. All right. Carolina at New Orleans.
Saints.
Yeah, the Green Bay winning that game against Minnesota eliminated the Saints.
Yeah.
Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a snowball's chance in hell to get in the playoffs. You going with Steelers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike
I'm
Tomlin.
gonna get them up to play.
Mike Tomlin, man, you can't say enough about that dude. He used the Bebe's Kids line. We don't die, we multiply. The Chargers at the Broncos. This will be another game where playoff implications. The Chargers could stay at the 5 spot if they win.
Chargers.
Yeah. Yeah. Giants at Philadelphia.
Now, under normal circumstances, I'm picking the Giants. But in this one, I'm going to assume that Philly wants to hold on to the number 1 seed.
Right. And again, the Giants don't have a reason to play their starters, at least for a full game. They can treat this as a preseason game. They're locked into the 6th spot. Do you risk playing the full game? Or what if Saquon gets hurt? What if Daniel Jones gets hurt? And you knew you were in the playoffs and you're not improving your standings by playing the game.
Yeah. And then it just comes down to, are your backups, decent enough to win that game by accident? I don't think so. So, yeah, I think Philly takes that, unfortunately.
Okay. I think Gardner Minshew's play kind of proved Micah Parsons' comments to be incorrect. But I said this.
I don't know. I didn't think about Michael Parsons' comments, but I thought about that somebody else made a comment about Minshew. But I had to remind the Saints D is not bad. The
Saints have a really good defense.
If you can keep it close, it is what it is. So
I said this yesterday though. If Nick Foles was Philadelphia's backup, they would have won both of them games. He only plays good in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Did you see that when he got sacked by Thibodeau and Thibodeau did the snow angel while Foles was twitching?
Exactly.
I was like, that is disrespectful. I hate to say this, but it was funny. It was funny, but it was so disrespectful. Because I was watching it in real time. I was like, yo, Foles is hurt. I said, why is he doing a snow angel directly next to him?
I don't think he actually noticed. He was so busy.
I don't think he noticed it either. But the visual of it is really disrespectful. Let's see who we got. Arizona at San Francisco.
49ers.
Okay. San Francisco wins that game, they'll be the number 2 seed, which kills my perspective of a second round matchup between the Lions and the Eagles, because if the Lions do get in and they have to go to San Francisco, good night, Irene.
Right.
The Rams at the Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Now that would be interesting if the Seahawks get in and then they have to go to San Francisco, because that's a division rivalry game.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Dallas at Washington. I already know you picking. I picked Dallas. You got Winston as your quarterback now. I can't do it. And the Sunday night game is Detroit at Green Bay. I want to see the Lions win so bad. I really do.
I'm going to take the Lions. I am going to take the Lions.
Okay. Going out on a limb. All right. Well, Tony's picks are as follows. Chiefs, Jaguars, Bengals, Bucks, Bills, Vikings, Colts, Jets, Saints, Steelers, Chargers, Eagles, 49ers, Seahawks, Cowboys, and Lions. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
All right, well, we're all going to be waiting and trying to find out what's going to happen with this reschedule, how it's going to affect not just the 4 teams, but how it's going to affect the league in general, particularly if they decide to go to a week 19. That'd be something. I see that as far-fetched, but we shall see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, brother, I will definitely hit you up next week to talk about these playoff scenarios.
I got a parting shot.
What's the parting shot?
The most fundamental things in the game: free throws and boxing out. Tell me why. But to be fair, it's still lane violation and the game is over. But you let someone, you're up 20. You let them come back and win, but you let them score.
That's right. Donovan Mitchell dropped 71 on y'all last night.
In the process.
God dang, I forgot about that. Donovan Mitchell dropped 71 on y'all ass last night.
I am sitting and I'm looking at this and I'm like, one box out.
Yup.
That's it. Game's over.
Yup. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeesh. Hey, Brooklyn Nets are balling, ain't it?
They are. We play them. That's our next game.
I said this to you a couple weeks ago. Isn't it amazing how? Well, no, I said it to you last week. Isn't it amazing how when the Nets are just focused on basketball, how good they are? And now they seem to have found the right coach. Isn't it amazing how when they're just focused on basketball and they have all their players available, how good they actually are? Okay, well, again, I will hit you up. Y'all ready for Tom Brady? Because that's who y'all playing. You ready?
I guess we got no choice but to be ready for it.
All I'm going to say is this. If it's a 3-point game and he's coming out on the field with a minute and 30 seconds left, y'all are cooked.
If it's a 3-point game and it's that scenario, they got to be smart and run the friggin' ball.
No, I said if it's a 3-point game and he's coming back on the field.
That's what I'm saying. You can't leave him with the ball. That's been our demise against Tom Brady. The last couple times we played him, leaving him last with the ball.
Yep.
So you either got to put some distance between them or you got to have that ball. And no, you can't be throwing with 30 seconds left. And they got 2 timeouts left, and you throwing the ball. You can't be doing that, Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I will hit you up next week.
All right, man.
Later on.
Later.
All right. Oh, had to get Tony's perspective. Didn't talk to him yesterday on the actual podcast, but again, our thoughts and prayers are with Damar Hamlin and his family. But I wanted to bring in the business aspect as well. The most important thing is the health and safety and the survival, honestly, of this second-year safety out of Pittsburgh who's only 24 years old. So we definitely want him to recover. Even if he never plays another down again in football, by all intents and purposes, his football career is over. But that doesn't mean his life has to be over. So we want him to survive. We want him to do well. It's Brandon Brevon Towns. I will see you guys back in about 6 days. About 6 days for the next episode of Sports Plus Life. This is Sports Plus Life talking ish. I'm outie.